Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a great morning so far. Let's wait for a couple of people to come in. A few people, if that happens, will be great. Um, today is Friday, June 28th, 2024. Um, so I decided to do AA meetings on Fridays because I have Thursdays to rest, and so Fridays works great for me. I can't make it for everybody to be able to make it to live stream, so I just decided to do it on this day. So, but anyways, if you're new here and you have not seen any of my other meetings, please be kind and respectful of others. Do not harass people that are in the chat because they are there. Um, they may not be the one who is a recovering alcoholic or who is the alcoholic. They may be there just to listen and support my channel, listen and find ways that they can help a family member or a friend get the help that they need to become sober and go on the sobriety journey. Um, so please don't be bullying. Do not harass people. Be kind. And if you're not comfortable with people knowing that you are um, in the chat and stuff, please know that you don't have to say anything in the chat. Just like it, hit the like button over there on the YouTube side. Um, let's get into the meeting today. I'm Sandra, and I'm an alcoholic. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Um, so, like I said, um, I'm doing these live streams of AA to help the people that are at home, can't get to a meeting. Um, I also always put in the description the book we're reading and the page number and all of that good stuff. So, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get the uh, steps done here. I'll read them to you guys. They're in the front of the 12 Traditions and 12 Steps book. Hello, sis. Thank you for coming. I was thinking you had forgotten. So, step one, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Three, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Four, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Five, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Stop your prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So we are in the big book again. In Bill's story on page 7, I'm going to start at my brother-in-law. Let me get a drink of my warm soda. I forgot I had grabbed one. It was cold. Okay. If you have a book, you can follow along. If not, don't worry. I'm going to read it anyways. My brother-in-law is a physician. Okay. And so his kindness, through his kindness and that of my mother, I was placed in a nationally known hospital for the mental and physical rehabilitation of alcoholics. Under the so-called belladonna treatment, my brain cleared. Hydrotherapy and mild exercise helped much. Best of all, I met a kind doctor who explained that though certainly selfish and foolish, I had been seriously ill, bodily and mentally. It relieved me somewhat to learn that in alcoholics the will is amazingly weakened when it comes to combating liquor, though it often remains strong in other respects. My incredible behavior in the face of a desperate desire to stop was explained. Understanding myself now, I fared forth in high hope. For 3 or 4 months, the goose hung high. I went to town regularly and even made a little money. Surely this was the answer, self-knowledge. But it was not, for the frightful day came when I drank once more. The curve of my declining moral and bodily health fell off like a ski jump. After a time, I returned to the hospital. This was the finish. The certain the curtain, it seemed to me. My weary and despairing wife was informed that it would all end with heart failure during delirium tremens, or I would develop a wet brain, perhaps within a year. She would soon have to give me over to the undertaker or the asylum. They did not need to tell me. I knew, and almost welcomed the idea. It was a devastating blow to my pride. I, who had thought so well of myself and my abilities, of my capacity to surmount obstacles, was concerned at last. Now I was to plunge into the dark, joining the endless procession of shops. Copper, quit! No! Sorry. I thought of my poor wife. There had been Much happiness after all. What would I not give to make amends? But that was over now. No words can tell of the loneliness and despair I found it in that bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand stretched around me in all directions. I had met my match. I had been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master. Trembling, I stepped from the hospital a broken man. Fear sobered me for a bit. Then came the insidious insanity of that first drink. And on Armistice Day 1934, I was off again. Everyone became resigned to the certainty that I would have to be shut up somewhere or would stumble along to a miserable end. How dark it is before the dawn. In reality, that was the beginning of my last debauch. I was soon to be calculated into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. Near the end of the bleak November, I sat drinking in my kitchen. With a certain satisfaction, I reflected there was enough gin concealed about the house to carry me through that night, and the next day my wife was at work. I wondered whether I dare hide a full bottle of gin near the head of our bed. I would need it before daylight. My musing was interrupted by the telephone. The cheery voice of an old school friend asked if he might come over. He was sober. It was years since I could remember his coming to New York in that condition. I was amazed. Rumor had it that he had been committed for alcohol insanity. I wondered how he had escaped. Of course, he would have dinner and then I could drink openly with him. Unmindful of his welfare, I thought only of recapturing the spirit of other days. There was that time we had chatted or chartered an airplane to complete a jig. His coming was an oasis in this dreary desert of Budapest. Actually, the very thing an oasis drinkers are like that. Hello, Ava. The door opened and he stood there, fresh skin and glowing. There was something about his eyes. He was inexplicably different. What had happened? What are you eating, you weirdo? No, don't eat it. I pushed a drink. No. I pushed a drink across the table. He refused it, disappointed but curious. I wondered what had got into the fellow. He wasn't himself. Come, what's all this about? I queried. He looked straight at me, simply and smilingly. He said, I've got religion. I was aghast. So that was it. Last summer, an alcoholic crackpot. Now I suspected a little cracked out about religion. He had that starry-eyed look. Yes, the old boy was on fire all right, but bless his heart, let him rant, because my gin would last longer than his preaching. But he did no ranting. In a matter-of-fact way, he told how two men had appeared in court persuading the judge to suspend his commitment. They had told of a simple religious idea and a practical program of action. That was 2 months ago, and the result was self-evident. It worked. He had come to pass his experience along to me, if I cared to have it. I was shocked, but interested. Certainly I was interested. To be. I had to be, for I was hopeless. He talked for hours. Childhood memories rose before me. I could almost hear the sounds of the preacher's voice as I sat on still Sunday, way over there on the hillside. There was that preferred temperance pledge I never signed. My grandfather's good-natured contempt of such church or of some church folk and their doings. His insistence that the spheres really had their music, but his denial of the preacher's right to tell him how he must listen, his fearlessness as he spoke of these things just before he died. These recollections welled up from the past. They made me swallow hard. That wartime day in old Winchester Cathedral came back again. I had always believed in a power greater than myself. I had often pondered these things. I was not an atheist. Few people really are, for that means blind faith in the stance proportions that this universe originated in a cipher and aimlessly rushes nowhere. My intellectual hero, the chemist, the astronomers, even the evolutionists suggested vast law and forces at work, despite contrary indications. I had little doubt that a mighty purpose and rhythm underlie all. How could there be so much of precise and immutable law and no intelligence? I simply had to believe in a spirit of the universe who knew neither time nor limitations. But that was as far as I had gone. With ministers and the world's religions, I parted right there. When they talked of a God personal to me, who was love, superhuman strength, and direction, I became irritated and my mind snapped shut against such a theory. To Christ I considered the certainty of a great man, not too closely followed by those who claimed him. His moral teaching most excellent for myself. I had adopted those parts which seemed convenient and not too difficult. The rest I disregarded. The wars which had been fought, the burnings and chicanery that religious despite had facilitated made me sick. I honestly doubted whether, on balance, the religious of mankind had done any good. Judging from what I had seen in Europe and since, the power of God in human affairs was negligible, the brotherhood of man a grim jest. If there was a devil, he seemed the boss universal, and he certainly had me. Now I forgot where it was. Okay. But my friend sat before me and he made the point, blank declaration that God had done for me, that God had done for him what he could not do for himself. His human will, his human will had failed. Doctors had pronounced him incurable. Society was about to lock him up. Like myself, he had admitted complete defeat. Then he had in effect been raised from the dead, suddenly taken from the scrap heap to a level of life better than the best he had ever known. Had his power originated in him? Obviously it had not. There had been no more power in him than there was in me at that minute, and this was none at all. That floored me. It began to look as though religious people were right after all. Here was something at work in a human heart which had done the impossible. My ideas about miracles were drastically revised right then. Never mind the musty past. Here sat a miracle directly across the kitchen table. He shouted great tidings. I saw that my friend was much more than inwardly recognized. He was on a different footing. His roots grasped a new soil. Despite the living example of my friend, there remained in me the vestings of my old prejudice. The word God still aroused a certain antipathy when the thought was expressed that there might be a God personal to me. Things feeling was intensified. I didn't like the idea. I couldn't go for such conceptions as creative intelligence, universal mind, or spirit of nature, but I resisted the thought of a Caesar of the heavens. However loving its way might be, I have since talked with scores of men who felt the same way. My friend suggested what then seemed a novel idea. He said, why don't you choose your own conception of God? That statement hit me hard. It melted the icy intellectual mountain in whose shadow I had lived and shivered many years. I stood in the sunlight at last. It was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than myself. Nothing more was required of me to make my beginning. I saw that growth could start from that point. Upon a foundation of complete willingness, I might build what I saw in my friend. Would I have it? Of course I would. Thus was I convinced that God is concerned with us humans when we want Him enough. At long last, feel, at long last I saw, I felt, I believed. Scales of pride and prejudice fell from my eyes. A new word came into view. The real sufficiency of my experience in the cathedral burst upon me. For a brief moment I had needed and wanted God. Then had been a humble willingness to have Him with me, and He came. But soon the sense of His presence had been blotted out by worldly clamors, mostly those within myself. And so it had been ever since. How blind I had been! At the hospital, I was separated from alcohol for the last time. Treatment seemed wise, for I showed signs of delirium tremens. There I humbly offered myself to God, and I then understood Him to do with me as He would. I placed myself unreservedly under His care and direction. I admitted for the first time that or that of myself, I was nothing, that without Him I was lost. I ruthlessly faced my sins and became willing to have my newfound friend take them away, root and branch. I have not had a drink since. My schoolmate visited me, and I fully acquainted him with my problem and deficiencies. We made a list of people I had hurt or towards whom I felt resentful. I expressed my entire willingness to approach these individuals, admitting my wrongs. Never was I to be critical of them. I was to write all such matters to the utmost of my ability. I was to test my thinking by the new God con- consciousness within. Common sense would thus become uncommon sense. I was to sit quietly when in doubt, asking only for direction and strength to meet my problems as He would have me. Never was I to pray for myself, except as my request bore on my usefulness to others. Then only might I expect to receive, but that would be in great measure. My friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my Creator, that I would have the elements of a way of living which answered all my problems. Belief in the power of God, plus enough willingness, honesty, and humility to establish and maintain the, the new order of things were the essential requirements. Simply, but not easy, a price had been or had to be paid. It meant destruction of self-centeredness. I must turn in all things to the Father of light who presides over us all. These were revolutionary and drastic proposals. But the moment I fully accepted them, the effect was electric. There was a sense of victory, followed by such a peace and serenity as I had never known. There was utter confidence. I felt lifted up, as though the great clean wind of a mountain top blew through and through. God comes to most men gradually, but his impact on me was sudden and profound. For a moment I was alarmed and called my friend, the doctor, to ask if I were still sane. He listened in wonder as I talked. Finally, he shook his head, saying, "Something has happened to you I don't understand, but you had better hang on to it. Anything is better than the way you were." The good doctor now sees many men who have such experience. He knows that they are real. While I lay in the hospital, the thought came that there were thousands of hopeless alcoholics who might be glad to have what had been so freely given to me. Perhaps I could help some of them. They in turn might work with others. My friend had emphasized the absolute necessity of demonstrating these principles in all my affairs. Particularly was it imperative to work with others, as he had worked with me. Faith without work was dead, he said, and how appallingly true for the alcoholic. For if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he could not survive the certain traits and low spot it had ahead. If he did not work, he would surely drink again, and if he drank, he would surely die. Then faith would be dead indeed. With us, it is just like that. My wife and I abandon ourselves with enthusiasm to the idea of helping other alcoholics to a solution of other problems. I was fortunate for my oldest business associates remained skeptical for a year and a half, during which I found little work. I was not too well at the time and was plagued with waves of self-pity and resentment. This sometimes nearly drove me back to drink, but I soon found that when all other measures failed, work with other alcoholics would save the day. Many times I have gone to my old hospital in despair. On talking to a man there, I would be amazingly lifted up and set on my feet. It is a design for living that works in rough going. We commenced to make my fast friends, and a fellowship had grown up among us, of which it is a wonderful thing to feel a part. The joy of living we really have even under pressure and difficulty. I have seen hundreds of families set their feet in the path that really goes somewhere. Have seen the most impossible domestic situations righted, feuds and bitterness of all sorts wiped out. I have seen men come out of asylums and resume a virtual place in the lives of their families and communities. Businesses and professional men have regained their standing. There is scarcely any form of trouble and misery which has not been overcome among us. In one western city and its various, there are other thousands of us and other families. We meet frequently so that newcomers may find the fellowship they seek. At these informal gatherings, one may often see for 50 to 200 persons. We are growing in numbers and power. An alcoholic in his cups is an unlovely creature. Our struggles with them are vigorously strenuous, comic, and tragic. Our poor chap committed in his home, or in my home, he could not or would not see our way of life. There is, however, a vast amount of fun about it all. I suppose some would be shocked at our seemingly worldness, worldness and liberty, but just underneath there is deadly earnestness. Faith has to work 24 hours a day in and through us, or we perish. Most of us feel we need look no further from utopia for utopia. We have it with us right here and now. Each day, my friends, simple talk in our kitchen multiplies itself in a widening circle of peace on earth and goodwill to men. Bill W., co-founder of AA, passed January 24th, 1971. So, uh, you, it's like I say, it works. Um, I I was all about me, and me when I was drinking. It was all about me and the need for my alcohol. Hello, Crystal. It was all about me. You know, we'd get in fights over the alcohol. We would um, throw punches. We would get physical with each other. And this is just me and my sister. Um, I left the Portland area for 6 months. I left my sister. I left my family. I only had my youngest son and my husband and my dogs. That was it. And a couple idiot friends that aren't our friends anymore. But I quit drinking while I was there, and I have not drank since. And all it took was just like it did for Bill. One friend reached to me and said, "Why don't you meet me at AA?" I was like, "Okay." Well, I had already been sober for a while, and I had known about AA. I had been to a meeting with my birth father, if you want to call him that. I don't know if he deserves that title, but um. So yeah, I been to one when I was little. I don't remember how old we were, but I think it was when he was living in Washington, but I can't be for sure. Anyways, so through my life, my adulthood, and my childhood, I knew that my father was an alcoholic. My mom never held that from us. Thank you for that, Mom. Um, so I was able to fight becoming who I knew I could end up being. I fought it all the way up until I turned 30. And then I gave in. I wish I hadn't given in because bad things happen when you're drunk. You may not even realize what happened when you're drunk. So, but I left my family and it was not planned for me to get sober while I was not here in this area. But I did. I got sober and I did it all on my own. And then we came back to my area of town and um, my friend introduced me to AA and AA. At first I didn't go to all the meetings. I would go and I'd be like, uh, yeah, okay, whatever, and then I'd leave. Well, then we had that illness come along, and we couldn't go to meetings. Um, some of my friends did go back out, and I'm sorry that they did, and I hope that they find their way back to sobriety. Um, but if it would not have been for my friend talking to me like Bill talked, or like Bill's friend talked to him across the kitchen table, I was only even texting with my friend. But anyways, so um, if I did not have AA, I would probably not be here right now. I learned a lot from AA. I still learn things every day. I still tell people that I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I don't care what they think. It is my truth, it is my story, and it is my journey on my sobriety that I want to share. I'm not sharing anyone else's story or their journey or their starting point or their ending point or anything like that. This is me and my story and what helped me get sober. And that is having true friends, a fellowship that I could feel okay to be around and okay to share some of my story. And that taught me a lot about myself because I am no different than any other alcoholic. We all do bad things while we're drinking. We may not realize what it was, but still, there is that alcohol that does run your life for some of us. Not everyone on earth is an alcoholic just because they have a drink. But within me learning exactly what Bill did about sharing it, share it and share it and share it and share it and give it to somebody that could use it. Keep talking about your journey. Keep talking about your sobriety. Keep telling them what you can do in ways to help and stay sober. Tell your story to anyone. Don't be ashamed. That is who you have become from. You came from that, and you are a better person because you came and you joined in a fellowship. You're sharing your story. You're speaking out about the alcoholics. uh, I mean, I don't have that interesting of a story, but I could tell you a whole bunch of stuff that, other people can relate to. And being able to go and watch the things that I've gotten to watch in my sobriety journey and the friends I have made just being sober far outgoes any day I was drinking. Any day I was drinking. Being sober right now and having the friends I have and the family, being part of my life, it is completely a 180, and I'm a better human because of it. And because of AA, I'm here sharing it with you guys on Facebook and YouTube and sharing my story and doing these meetings, even if only one person comes in, it's worth it. And having those people in my circle of friends here on YouTube encouraging me and telling me that you're helping a lot of people. It makes me feel so much better because that's all I want to do is help the next person. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. And I just know I love you all. And I miss you guys during the week while I'm at work. Um, it's kind of crazy. I work 10-hour days. So when I get home, I'm exhausted. I'm going to bed. So that's exactly what I do. I eat dinner and go to bed. So, but but yeah, just know that you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not the only one, and you're welcome here anytime. And just make sure you hit that like button. It makes me know. It helps me to know that I am helping people. So, anyways, with that, I'm going to say the Serenity Prayer and read the daily reflection, and then I will go ahead and end the live streams. And it's different because I've got the Chromebook that my sister let me borrow and my laptop going all at the same time, and I can read it to both sides. So I'm going to do that. June 28th, the determination of our founder. A year and 6 months later, these three had succeeded with seven more. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 159. If it had not been for the fierce determination of our founders, AA would have quickly faded like so many other so-called good causes. I look at the hundreds of meetings weekly in the city where I live, and I know AA is available 24 hours a day. If I had to hang on with nothing but hope and a desire to not drink, experiencing rejection wherever I went, I would have sought the easier, softer way and returned to my previous way of life. So, with that, um, I love you all, and I'll see you next week. We have a trip planned for the 4th of July, so I'll be getting some videos, and I won't be doing the AA that day, next Friday, because I won't be in town. I'll be on a mountain with no service. So, all right. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I love you guys. Be safe out there. And don't forget, you're not the only one. And there is a lot of help. A lot of help. I love you guys. Be safe out there. Be kind. And have a great weekend.